I'm getting warm. I warmed up now, y'all. Singing that song. I have warmed up, so get a little more comfortable. You can do the same if you need to. Boy, this was a wonderful book. It is a wonderful book by Alice Walker. I loved the book when I first read it many, many years ago. Then I got to see the movie, and I loved the one that starred Whoopi Goldberg as the main character, Celie, and I loved the movie. You can go back and probably pull it up on something and watch it, you know, and stream it. And so often that's not the case when you read the book first. You know, you don't, the movie does, you don't like it, but it was so well done, so well. And then more recently, we went to see the movie that's now playing, that is a musical. It was great too. I was almost afraid to go see it. I thought, well, you know, I'm not gonna like it because everything else was so good, but it was great too. I did not go see the Broadway play. Did anyone here see the Broadway play? No, okay. Well, I assume the movie was based on that. So I think I would have loved that too. And maybe I'll get a chance to see that one day. So even so it's happening, you know, I just really loved it. But even so, this is one of the books that keeps showing up on those banned book lists all the time. And I shouldn't be surprised, because some of my favorite books, the ones I've loved the most, are ones that show up on the banned book lists. So I chose this one to talk about because it is one of my favorites. And today's message is going to be twofold. First, I'm going to share with you some of the theology. Y'all don't go to sleep now. Some of the theology that underpins this work, and how the main character, Celie, how she changes her theology as time goes on. Let me get this, and she learns to think a little differently about it. And then also, I'm going to share with you some lessons that I have learned, that I hope, and in reading the book, that perhaps you learned too. So, first of all, let's talk about the theology. Part one, theology. As you may remember, Alice Walker tells this story as a series of journal entries written by Celie. The first ones are all addressed to God, then to her sister Nellie, who's living in Africa with missionaries, then at the end to God again. But it's a different God of her understanding. In fact, she addresses it: dear God, dear stars, dear trees, dear peoples, dear everything, dear God. And Celie was introduced to thinking of God in a different way by the flamboyant blues singer and Celie's lover, Shug Avery. If you got here on time, you got to hear the first movie you ever sang to Celie. I'm going to share with you about this, where this theology is expressed best, by reading a portion of that book, and rather than just trying to tell you, because it's so beautiful. These are Celie's words, and in this part, she is sharing with Shug. I mean, these are Shug's words. These are Celie's words written down, but she's sharing Shug's words. You'll get it. She's sharing about what Shug told her when they were talking one day. And in this particular slide, Celie is wearing the dress she wore when that Shug wore when she sang. So, but Celie is on the left and Shug is on the right. So I'll put that up there so you can get these characters in mind as I share about them. Here's the thing, say Shug, the thing I believe: God is inside you and inside everybody else. You come into the world with God, but only them that search for it find it. And sometimes it just manifests itself, even with you not looking, and you don't know what you're looking for. Trouble will do it for most folks, I think. Sorrow, Lord, feeling like shit. It? I asked. Yeah, it. God ain't a he or a she, but it. But what do it look like? I asked. don't look like nothing, she said. It ain't a picture show. It ain't something you can look at apart from anything else, including yourself. I believe God is everything, say Sugar. Everything that is or was or ever will be. And when you feel that, you can be happy about it. When you feel it and you found it. Sugar, beautiful something, let me tell you. She frowned a little, looked out across the yard, leaned back in her chair, looked like a big rose. She said, my first step away from the old white man was trees, then air, then birds, then other people. But one day I was sitting quiet and feeling like a motherless child, which I was, and it came to me, that feeling of being a part of everything, not separate at all. I knew if I cut a tree, my arm would bleed. And I laughed and I cried and I run all around the house. I knew what it was. In fact, when it happened, you can't miss it. It's sort of like, you know what, she said, grinning, rubbing my high on my thigh. Sure, I say. Oh, she said, God love all them feelings. That's some of the best stuff God did. And when you know God loves them, you enjoys them a lot more. You can just relax, go with everything that's going, and praise God by liking what you like. Don't God think it's dirty? I asked. No, she said. God made it. Listen, God loves everything you love, and a mess of stuff you don't. More than anything else, God loves admiration. You saying God vain? I asked. No, she said, not vain, just wanted to share a good thing. I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple in a field somewhere and don't notice it. What it do when it gets pissed off? I asked. Oh, it makes something else. People think pleasing God is all God cares about, but any fool living in the world can see it always trying to please us back. Yeah, I say. Yeah, she said. It always making little surprises and springing them up on us when we least expect. You mean it want to be loved just like the Bible say? Yeah, Seeley, she said. Everything want to be loved. Us sing and dance, make faces, give flower bouquets trying to be loved. You ever notice that trees do everything to get attention that we do, except walk? Well, us talk and talk about God, but I'm still adrift, trying to chase that old white man out of my head. I've been so busy thinking about him, I never truly noticed nothing God made, not a blade of corn. How it do that? Not the color purple. Where it come from? Not the little wildflowers, nothing. Now that my eyes opening, I feels like a fool. Next to any little shrub of a bush in my yard, Mr. Evil sort of shrink, but not altogether. Still, it like Shook said, you have to get man off your eyeball before you can see anything at all. Man corrupt everything, say Shook. He on your box of grits, in your head, all over the radio. He try to make you think he everywhere. As soon as you think he everywhere, you think he God, but he ain't. Whenever you try praying and that man plop himself on the other end of it, tell him to get lost, say Shook. Conjure up flowers, wind, water, a big rock. But this hard work, let me tell you. That man God been there so long, he don't want to budge. He threatened lightning, floods, and earthquakes. Us fight. I hardly pray at all. And every time I conjure up a rock, I throw it. Shug's theology, imparted to Seeley, is similar to what many of us espouse, seeing the divine, or God, if you will, in nature. But there is more theology in this book than just that to explore and have out for our understanding. Author Dan Cushing sees this entire novel as a type of theological writing. He states, at first glance, most readers would not recognize Alice Walker's novel, The Color Purple, as a typical example of theological writing. After all, theological truths are usually revealed in ancient, often puzzling manuscripts, which are neatly packaged and interpreted for us by the doctrinal experts. Even some Sunday sermons take on an impersonal and otherworldly irrelevance, which is a long way removed from the everyday earthiness of Walker's novel. But whether they've been exposed to theology in its strictest form or not, many readers will finish The Color Purple with the suspicion that they have somehow been exposed to a deeply theological experience. End quote. In fact, Cushing sees its theological underpinning as the basic theme and structure of The Color Purple. He summarizes it with the following explanation. The central character, Seeley, enslaved in a kind of physical, emotional, and spiritual bondage, is led gradually to freedom or redemption, as theologians would say, by her exposure to and her response to a kind of divine teacher, a redeemer, Shug Avery. The essential similarity to the Jewish experience in Hebrew scriptures and the Christian experience in the New Testament is not insignificant, it says. The parallels are strong enough and real enough to qualify The Color Purple as a retelling, a personal experience of the basic Judeo-Christian understanding of redemption. In this case, from the perspective of one particular Black woman. Even more, in a broader and more prophetic way, it translates that understanding into an experience of redemption for women in general. End quote. I'm glad that this man, who's a Catholic faith director, I'm glad that this man recognizes that this is a story of liberation and redemption of women. Although the book certainly addresses the issues of race and colonialism, especially in the correspondence with Seeley's sister Nettie when she's in Africa, I see the primary theme as the liberation and empowerment of women. Perhaps because I was previously in a church, and yes, previously somewhat in a marriage in which I felt trapped by patriarchy and misogyny. So it's coming through my own perspective, I guess. And the interesting part of this theological story is that when the women are liberated, when the women are redeemed, it leads to the liberation of men who felt bound to certain gender expectations as well. Indeed, even Seeley's husband, Mr., becomes more loving as he adopts what his society would see as more domestic feminine traits. Part 2, the lessons from The Color Purple. There are loads of possibilities. I'm just going to share 4 of these lessons that stood out to me. Lesson number 1, stand up for yourself and what's right. Here are some possibilities. There's a quote from Seeley to Nettie. Don't let them run over you. You got to fight. Seeley's talking to her and offering this advice, this sisterly advice. Nettie's her sister. When Nettie comes to live with Seeley and Mr., she tells Nettie that she has to stand up for herself and not let Mr. or the kids run over her. Of course, this results in Nettie being forced to leave, thrown off the property in an agonizing passage. But she doesn't give in to Mr.'s advances. Another example is when Celie finally stands up for herself and shares with Mr. about that as she is leaving him. Here's a clip of that.
I should have locked you up. You just let me out to work. The day you plan for me is the one you're gonna ride in. Get the car, get the car. Everything you've done to me. Ready, darling? For black, I made to be ugly, but dear God, I'm here. I'm here.
I'm here, she says, I'm here. And there are many more, as the women in this book all come to more self-realization and gain strength and resilience from their experiences in each other. Many other lessons about standing up. Lessons like these from The Color Purple and from other books that I've read in my life growing up and as an adult have helped me to lift up my own voice for what is right, even when the consequences could be loss of love of so-called friends and even family members. Still stand up for what is right. Lesson number 2. Oops. Lesson number 2. Make connections with people who understand and support you. This was especially demonstrated in The Color Purple as Celie begins to connect and support with other women who were abused or trapped in oppressive situations. These women found strength in their numbers, and they were able to overcome their fears, or at least to move through them with resilience. Now, some of the women were already strong, especially Sophia. And the quote that's most likely goes with showing how strong she is, the quote from the book is, "Hell no." Y'all excuse my language from the pulpit today, but I'm quoting from the book, all right? Hell no. And that quote exemplifies the hell no, as Sophia shares it with her would-be abusive husband, and she explains to Celia as she confronts Celia about Celia was accepting that, well, just men are supposed to be, they just beat their wives, that's just part of how, what is how it is. No, she says hell no to that when she explains it to Celia. She uses the same hell no phrase with the white mayor who demands that she be their maid. He has her beaten and arrested after that and forces her to serve as their live-in maid for 12 long years. But she becomes a role model to the other women. The hell no quote is turned into a song for the play and musical. So I'm going to show you a bit of this in this video from the Broadway play of Sophia. This is Sophia confronting Celie after Celie had told her husband when she said Sophia wouldn't do what he needs to do. Well, why don't you beat her? That's what happens to Celie, right? Well, Sophia confronts her about that.
In my own house.
Hell no. I really felt the power of this lesson of connecting with others when I traveled to Washington, D.C. in January of 2017 and participated in the Women's March after Trump was elected. The power of that solidarity was mind-blowing. And the women in the smaller marches around the country felt it too, and some began to organize more, even here locally. Bullitt Countyans have also connected and organized to help fight for justice in many ways here. And of course, our gathering here and working together as Unitarian Universalists is an example that I will always cherish. Connections are so important. Lesson 3. Can't always get what you want, but if you try sometime, you just might find you get what you can. This is exemplified by many of the characters in this book. Now here's Sophia as an old woman. Now Sophia would like to have raised her own children. When she got back home after 12 years of basically forced slavery that she had to do for the mayor and his wife, she realized that her kids didn't know who she was, and she didn't really know them either. But in her old age, she softened and made the best of things, loving folks and taking them in. Even the mayor's daughter that she had raised, who ended up cooking for her because she was doing, as she went to work. Her heart's longings as a young woman did not work out. But she had learned a good lesson. And this is what she said. I try to teach my heart not to want nothing it can't have. Try to teach my heart not to want nothing it can't have. Folks, that's the serenity prayer, basically. Yeah. Now, another one is Celie. Here she is as an old woman. Celie and Shug had a complicated relationship, a passionate, steamy romance that doesn't really show up in the films. You have to read the book, folks. Celie loves Shug, but Shug was not made for one romantic partner. And just as Mr. had to give Shug up to Celie, Celie had to give her up as well. In the end, Celie and Mr. had a renewed relationship of sorts, not a marriage, not sexual, but caring. She loved him because he also had loved Shug. And he softened and they shared stories back and forth. She even taught him how to sew so he could work in her business that she had. Later, Shug did come back, and so did Nettie and her children and her husband. And Celie learned that she may be old in years, but there could still be happiness. She said, I don't think us feel old at all, and us so happy. Matter of fact, I think this is the youngest us ever felt. Now, folks, I know, thankfully, we have a lot of young folks here today. I'm glad, and had children too, but I see out there that some of you are my generation, maybe a couple of you might even be a little older, I don't know. And I don't know about you, but I do have more aches and pains, but I have learned so much better how to cope with things and how to deal with things. And happiness comes with that, folks. Happiness comes with that. So you young folks, people may tell you this is the best time, happiest time of your lives, but no, I think you'd be happier when you get older. Because you will have learned a lot, and you learn how to deal with stuff and cope with stuff, okay? And you still have depression, still have ups and downs, but you kind of get some wisdom along the way, and that is what happened. And remember, and so you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometime, get what you can. Last lesson. Pay attention. Pay attention. If we rush by too fast, we may miss the forlorn, forgotten, and the lonely, and that which needs our love and care. Sometimes people just need to be seen and know that we see them. Of course, we also may miss the beautiful. Pay attention. This is most famously demonstrated in the book by Shug's declaration to Seeley that, again, I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple in the field and don't notice it. I think that Seeley and Shug and Sophia and even Mr. Albert would have agreed in the end with Mary Oliver, who wrote, I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Amen. And blessed be.